answer. And so when people are stating that they are looking for the truth, what is it really that they are looking for? They're looking to find a level of contentment. They're looking to find something that they can believe in, something that they can hold close and dear to their hearts, something that they can resign themselves to a certain level of comfort in this world, that they know something and that they've got some sort of a direction and a handle within this chaos. And when people are looking for truth and they're looking on YouTube, with the amount of misinformation, disinformation and confusement that pertains to that, unless they have a mind that is capable of deciphering the wheat from the chaff, to question the validity and veracity of the things they're listening to, if they can determine from it something that's true to them, if they can, then it is working for them. But most people, it seems to me, they can't do that. They just engage themselves in an endless stream of information, and all that happens is that their minds just become more and more confused, and they can't find a resolution. They can't decipher between all the information something which is valid for them. And I just asked the question, why can't people do this? Why is it that people, they watch a video and they can't see that behind the video there's an agenda, or that the information is only based on hearsay, and whoever's saying it with a certain level of emphaticism, if that's the word, being emphatic about something in their delivery. If, when you look at it, you can't see any truth for you, then we have to ask the question, well, what is it that I'm looking for? What truth am I looking for? I'm looking for my truth. I'm looking for something that makes me feel settled, that makes me feel comfortable in this chaos. And so I mentioned a famous line from Alan Watts, and he stated, look, when you get the message, hang up the phone. Because if you don't know when to hang up the phone, then all you're going to do is get drawn incessantly down any number of rabbit holes. And within these rabbit holes is such an array of conflicting information that it's going to be very, very difficult for many people to decipher any reality. And I look at the world and I go, well, I've never claimed I'm looking for truth. I'm not looking for any truth in the exterior, because I don't believe that truth is out there. Truth is a subjective experience. Whatever your experience seems good for you, it makes you settled and it gives you some sort of contentment in that you feel that you've got some sort of stability in this chaotic world, then that will be true for you. And if you make certain conclusions about the world, then you hold those dear to your heart, and if they serve you, and if you're feeling good about the information, then that should be enough. If you've arrived at a certain conclusion about something, then why do you want to keep looking? It's evidently because you haven't arrived at a certain conclusion that you're happy with, because you're still doubting that information, because you're not sure. Why aren't you sure? Because you don't know how to be sure. And so what I say to people, what my message is, that If you're looking for truth, whatever that may be, it most certainly isn't out there. The closest semblance of any truth that you're ever going to find is in here. And it's going to derive out of your experience. What you can say to yourself that you know that to be true. For instance, when I am not engaged in my slavery, when I don't have the pressures and strains of society, then I feel good. Well, that to you is the truth, isn't it? And so you look at that truth and you go, okay, I think that's the truth. When I'm not engaged in slavery and I don't feel oppressed and under pressure by the external forces of the society, then if that's a truth to me, and I can determine that that's the truth by the way I feel, then that's the path that you want to take. Continue to do that. If it's true to you, if it feels right and is conducive to your stability and equanimity, then that's where you want to be. And so if you find that position, then hang up the phone and continue to do what you're doing that gives rise to those feelings. Because this life is a feeling. And the greatest truth that we're going to derive is derived out of a feeling. And even if something isn't true as far as many people are concerned, if it's true to you and it serves you, then that should be enough for you. Just because somebody else says that's not true, what do? Do you throw that out then? And do you continue down any number of rabbit hole to look for something which other people may consider to be true? And if you find this information and it doesn't make you feel good, i.e., oh, I've discovered something about the world, that it's run by archons and paedophiles and there's an evil agenda, is that truth going to be serving you? It's not going to be serving you if it's not making you feel good, is it? You may say to yourself, well, I've found truth. What have you done? You just punished yourself. Because the information that you've been privy to is causing you stress. And the whole purpose of your journey was to try to alleviate the madness and the stress. Surely. Why would you want to engage in bringing about more stress? And this is why you've got this adage that ignorance is bliss. For many people, ignorance is bliss. Because the less one knows about this world, probably the better. If they can't deal with the information, if they can't look at that information and say, okay, I know this about the world now, but I'm not going to live it. I'm not carrying the weight of it. I'm glad in a way that my eyes have been opened to it, if it doesn't cause me anxiety. Otherwise, how can you be glad? And so we have to be very, very careful. And I've said this on numerous occasions. We have to be careful what we're looking for. And there's one particular occasion not too long ago when I said that there's certain things I don't want to look into. Why? Because I don't think it's going to be conducive to my well-being. How much do I want to know about the pervasive evil? How close do I want to get to that evil? How much do I want to embrace that evil? But it's true. Well, if it is true, and it gives you nightmares, and it makes you anxious and afraid, then that isn't really the objective that you're looking for, is it? And so, you know, when I try to advise people, when they're looking for truth, question, are you really looking for truth? Because the truth is going to be very disturbing. That is a certainty that I've come to understand about this world. There's a lot of stuff that can be deemed to be true, which is horrific. And so do you want to carry the weight of that? How deep down the rabbit hole do you want to go? How strong is your constitution for truth? How much do you want to know about the evil that man can do? How much do you want to know about other entities? There's many entities. Thousands of them that people have engaged with via psychedelics, astral projections, and many other experiences that they've had. Do you want to be privy to all that? If you just want to know truth at any cost, then you just keep going, don't you? You keep going, you keep going, you keep going. And one of the things that, I would consider is a requirement is that you engage in any number of psychedelic. Because the more psychedelics that you engage in, the more diverse the world becomes, the more incredible it comes, and you gain knowledge. But is that knowledge of benefit to you? That's the thing, isn't it? And so we have to ask ourselves the question, is it truth that we're looking for? Or is it some sort of contentment in this life? And I think that's where the answer lies. And so what I say to people is that I found a level of contentment in my life, and the contentment isn't derived out of any of the information that I've acquired. It's derived out of the peace that I've found within myself when I'm immersed in nature, or I am in meditation, or I'm going about my everyday life and I don't have these incessant nonsensical thoughts rattling around my mind, keeping it occupied and busy with nonsense. It's not allowing me to be free. And so when this adage, the truth will set you free, is bounded around, I ask the question, how exactly will that do that? How will knowing about all the horrendous things that the human being is capable of and is doing prolifically around the world, how is that going to set you free? It's a complete contradiction. It's going to put you in bondage. It's going to put your mind in bondage, it's going to put your heart in bondage, and it's going to put every vessel in your body in bondage. Because it's going to riddle your body with insecurity, uncertainty, fear, disappointment, all these negative connotations that can pertain to so-called truth. So we need to be careful, that's what I'm saying. We've got to address what it is that we actually want. And I think the vast majority of people, they just want to find a level of contentment. And so, if you find a level of contentment, then I would suggest that you stay there. Because it doesn't get any better than that. A deep level of contentment is very far and few between. It's a very difficult position to attain. Feeling. It's a very difficult and elusive feeling, contentment. If you reflect upon your life, when have I been the most content? Well, it was when I had this simple job. The money was crap, but I never had any stress. And I had quite a bit of time on my hands to do the things I like doing. And that's when I was the most happiest. Well, seems to me then you hang up the phone there. But if you're driven to know more about this world, then there's a very high likelihood that the acquisition of this certain knowledge is going to take you away from that level of contentment, maybe forever. And so, finally, with my rants and my videos, I'm not a self-effacing person. You know that. I don't believe in it, that we've got to be self-effacing all the time, because what do? We're just making compromises on what we say and our true personality just to appease other people. So are we living our lives for other people in fear of that they'll think, oh, you're such an ego, or you're so egotistical, you think you know it all, and blah blah blah. I don't care for other people's opinions. It seems I do care about helping people, and this is why I convey what I've learnt so far. So some of you may derive something of value out of it. And so, when you're looking at me, I would suggest that you refrain from your biases, you refrain from your programs, you refrain from your projections, and you just listen to what I've got to say. And if it serves you, then you'll continue to watch. If you take objection to it, then you shouldn't be watching. It's as simple as that. I'm not going to change for anybody. If I do change, the change is going to come about through the natural course of me changing. Certain changes coming about in my mindset, in my thought pattern, in my physiology, in my delivery, in my alleviation of frustration, whatever. This stuff will probably come about in time. And what will happen is that, progressively, I'll try less hard. I won't be bothered anymore. I won't be able to see the point in it. And so finally then, I was listening to Ram Dass. Ram Dass is a very respected academic, psychonaut, guru, orator, personality, many things. He's got many qualities. But what he says ultimately, after all that time, what has he really become? He's learnt a lot about the world and about himself. But has that knowledge enabled him to become a different person? Not really. Has he become this pure being that he was seeking for? No. He still carries all of his humanism. Maybe to a lesser degree, because he's got some sort of mastery over whether he expresses certain things or he allows certain thoughts to have autonomy. But the thoughts he had 25 years ago are still with him today. The idiosyncrasies that he had 25 years ago are still with him today. The passion and the belief that he was going to be this enlightened being over and above a human being, seems he's given up on that. He professes that he isn't enlightened. I think the more knowledge that you acquire, the more you realise how little you know. And so it seems that it's a pointless endeavour, really. But when I look at him, he seems to be calm. He seems to have a certain level of contentment. And that's via the acceptance that he's now got after all those years, all that meditation, all those psychedelics. He's resigned himself now that he isn't going to attain this super enlightenment that he and his friends and colleagues were looking for at the time. Because over time, you just realise you're a human being. You're having a human experience. And so deal with it.